It's September the 23rd, 2021, and welcome to the Water Action Platform. We've just had the Olympics, and today we're going to hear how the power of sport can be used to leverage increased engagement around water issues. We will also hear about an MABR technology which, over the past few years, has gone from a few tests in a laboratory to having more than 300 full-scale installations around the world. We will also hear about an astonishingly ambitious new initiative in Saudi Arabia, which has aspirations to make a lasting change to the traditional playbook for water desalination. And if that wasn't enough, our "and finally" story might just enable you to be able to talk to dolphins. It's all made possible by our sponsors, to whom we are extremely grateful. Let's jump straight in. We start with this story from Greenville, South Carolina. Now, you might recall that last year we shared news that Luminultra had developed a method for measuring ATP in water, which could help utilities better manage microbial regrowth in their distribution systems, which has been proven especially useful for managing nitrification. Well, Greenville Water's lab manager, Jeff Zarnecki, pictured here, has been working with Luminultra and has been persuaded. He tells us that not only does ATP testing enable a faster indication of microbial quality than traditional tests, such as heterotrophic plate counts, but also he is now able to detect the true total population, including nitrifying bacteria. Now, before using this new ATP technique, it took several days to get results, which of course delayed Greenville Water's ability to take action when needed. With ATP testing, the results are immediate, so Jeff and his team can take action right away. Luminultra tell me that their test kits have been specifically designed and optimized for a wide range of applications and sample types. If you want to know more, visit their website. But thank you, Jeff, for sharing this experience. Now, talking of shared experiences, I trust we all enjoyed the recent Olympics. Well, we now have a sports-related story about a new Dutch initiative designed to bring the universal power of sport into the world of water and environmental issues. Earlier this week, I spoke to Annelies Schenk in Amsterdam to find out more. Annelies, it is terrific to connect with you today. Thank you for taking the time to speak. Let's jump straight in. Can you tell me what is the Future of Water initiative and why are you involved?
First of all, thank you for having me, Piers. But yes, I can explain that. The Future is Water is an initiative of the Royal Dutch Water Sports Association and sports marketing agency TIGsport. And together they have embraced the challenges of connecting the appealing world of water sports to that of the great challenges around sustainability, climate, and particular water.
Excellent. And it's the water sports, so it's very specific on water sports, is that right?
Yes, but water sports is kind of wide because it entails subbing, kite surfing, sailing, and even the motor sport.
Exactly what I'd expect from the Dutch. You'd find every sort of sport you could possibly do in water, isn't it? So tell me, what have you done to date? What's the initiative done so far?
Now, the initiative actually started about a year ago. The idea started because there are so many impressive international water sports events coming to the Netherlands, such as the World Sailing Championship, the Ocean Race, Allianz Regatta, and we have a successful group of Olympic athletes. So based on this...
You just had to get that in there, didn't you? You just had to get that in there about the successful Olympic athletes. But yes.
Yeah, we have that gold medalist winners. Yeah.
I interrupted. Carry on. Sorry.
So this we felt like we have this powerful and unique platform to influence a wide audience, and that's why we started The Future is Water. And what we have to date is already a very impressive educational program for kids. It's called in Dutch De Wereld van Water, the world of water. And it's being this program is being educated already per year at 800 schools. And we developed a water lab. And this water lab we take to different events where kids can learn about water problems, the dikes, all different elements of water. And that's also a huge success. We took it, for example, to the Olympic Festival this summer, where a lot of Dutch people were there to see it.
Excellent. And I know that you've done some stuff, or some work has been done with regards to the Open, the golf event. I know that's not specifically related to what your initiative is. Can you just give me the headlines on what happened there?
Now, the headlines is the Open is actually an initiative that we feel also using the power of sport to make an impact. And we're going to have them talk about their lessons learned over the last years during our symposium. And that's actually one of the ways we want to create impact, is also bringing during an event the world of sports and the world of water together. And we will have the Open telling their story around sustainability. And then we will have the Ocean Race telling their sustainability story. So we have two huge event organizers telling what they have done over the years to make an impact and using the power of sport.
Brilliant. And just in case anyone missed it, just remind us, where's that going to happen and how do they get involved?
Yeah, we will have our first The Future is Water Symposium organized and held in Amsterdam during Amsterdam International Water Week. We're very honored that we can be part of their program. And in this way, we feel that we can create community engagement and collaboration amongst those working in water and amongst those working on the industrial side and on the sports side.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Annelies. And for anyone watching this, we do have a recording of a video, an interview that Annelies did with the people behind the Open event, the Golf Open, which we will make available on our website. Annelies, thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Piers.
As mentioned, here is the link to the interview between Annelies and the RNA who run the Open. We now come to our regular update on vaccines and variants from Joe Burgess. Over to you, Joe.
Thanks, Piers, and hi everyone. This month I'm going to talk about two preprints which came out in the past 4 weeks and caused two issues to resurface. There's a lot of discussion once again regarding vaccine-induced myocarditis or inflammation of the heart in 12 to 15-year-olds. A preprint released on the 8th of September concluded that the USA should reconsider its decision to vaccinate adolescents because it said the risk outweighed the benefits. This was picked up by several news outlets. But in this preprint, a lot of very important critical context was lost. First, it used VAERS data. I keep on saying that we have to take the VAERS system with a pinch of salt. Anyone can report a case of anything here, and none of the information is verified. In multiple places on the website itself, you find warnings like this one on the slide about information being incomplete and inaccurate. It's not rigorous enough to make sweeping causal statements like the authors did. Second, the authors didn't have access to the raw data. They just used the publicly available information. And this is important to note because it means they weren't able to investigate each one of the cases. Because they weren't able to do this, they counted every case labelled as high troponin, a heart protein, as myocarditis. But that's just plain wrong. High troponin can mean lots of things. You release troponin when you exercise. Each of these cases individually needs to be investigated to see whether there is a causal link or not. This is literally a cardiologist's job, and the preprint did not do this. Another recent preprint by Gazet and co-workers created waves by concluding that people with a previous COVID-19 infection have a lower risk of being reinfected than fully vaccinated people. If we look at what they found and we squint really hard, we can kind of see how they got there, but it is a really bad take. The study and the data interrogation in particular are fundamentally flawed. The data came from a patient database from Israel's second largest health maintenance organisation, and the authors compared infection risk in people who've been previously infected with one vaccine dose, and those not previously infected with 2 doses of vaccine. And they concluded that fully vaccinated people with 2 doses had 6 times the odds of infection compared to previously infected but unvaccinated people. But since this was a real-life or an observational study rather than a proper randomised trial, there are important differences between the groups of people that bias the findings. For example, the most vulnerable people typically work the hardest to shield themselves from COVID-19 up to the point when they get vaccinated. And since the most vulnerable people were less likely to be previously infected, this makes it look like natural infection is more protective than it really is. And most importantly, it was based on voluntary rather than routine testing. So it can never be a representative sample because the participants aren't random. This study is inconsistent with other data that we have asking the same question. And it's only a preprint, and that means that it reports new research that has not yet been evaluated and should never be used to guide practice. I have a love-hate relationship with preprints. They give us rapid information, and that has been absolutely essential for the last 18 months, but we have to take them with caution always, and one preprint certainly doesn't overturn the hundreds of studies that it contradicts. This Israel preprint won't be published in its current form. Like we say in academia, it needs major revisions. So let's have a quick recap of the body of evidence that this preprint contradicts. Some of you might remember this table. I retired it after June because the results being published since then almost all just corroborate previous publications, which is great. It means we're learning. This slide, which you'll get from peers after today, links through to 22 of the many available studies that Gazit et al. Contradicted in their preprint. We've known that natural immunity can be protective and it can last for a long time in some cases. The problem is that the response is random. Some people have protection for a long time, some people have protection from a short time, and some don't get it at all. And the other problem with reinfection is that a previous infection with, say, the alpha variant gives you no protection at all or very, very little against infection with a new variant like Delta. And in the face of a rapidly mutating virus, this is critical information.
Thanks for that, Joe. Next month, following requests from a number of you, Joe's going to talk about long COVID, the severe fatigue, brain fog, muscle pain and sleep problems that can persist for months after an active infection has ended. A large study was published this month, and in the next Water Action platform, Joe's going to unpick the stats and look at what they mean for us if we want to avoid this post-viral syndrome. However, we move now to our technology showcase, and this week it's Fluence, who over the past 10 years have grown from a few clever boffins doing clever stuff in a laboratory to arguably the market leader in aerated membrane bioreactors, referred to as AMBRs. They now have literally hundreds of full-scale installations. Here is their product manager, Giled Yogev, giving the 1-minute elevator pitch.
Hi everyone, my name is Giled Yogev and I am the MABR product manager at Fluence. So at Fluence, we see the future of wastewater treatment being in decentralized facilities. Those save 2/3 of the initial capex, allowing to invest on time and reduce energy, operation, and maintenance efforts. The way we do decentralized treatment at Fluence is with the MABR technology. MABR stands for Membrane Aerated Biofilm Reactor. It's an advanced, robust, energy-efficient, yet simple technology that achieves outstanding effluent quality, suitable for reuse. This technology is packed into various products, all fit for decentralized applications, but also for new plants or retrofits. A spiral MABR package plants are built in 20 or 40-foot containers. MABR modules can easily be integrated into existing plants to enhance treatment. Concrete MABR configurations called Subre are also available, as well as side stream nitrogen treatment with the newest member of the MABR family, the Nitro. This MABR-based product portfolio was built to address any utility need from small, decentralized facilities to larger plant retrofits. All of them have MABR inside as the core of the process.
Now, I was so taken with the MABR technology that I felt we had to go a little bit deeper. How have they been able to achieve this phenomenal growth, and what is it that makes this technology so different? So with that in mind, I connected with the chairman of Fluence, Richard Irving, to find out a little bit more. So decentralized systems really only work if you've got a good modular design which can be rolled out effectively. And I'm here now with the chairman of Fluence, the business that was behind that fantastic video that we've just seen. Richard, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Richard, can we start with explaining what is an AMB? God, I'm forgetting it myself. An MABR. What is an MABR for those people in the audience who aren't aware?
Yes, yet another acronym. They are a little bit of a tongue twister sometimes, particularly because MABR is very confusingly similar to MBR, and yet the two are entirely different. So, when you think about wastewater treatment, what you're trying to do is, in the biological phase, is you're trying to dissolve oxygen into the wastewater, and by doing that, then the biological processes can take place, both removal of the biological load, but also nitrification, denitrification. And it's really a brute force approach nowadays. If you talk about fine bubble diffusers or you talk about MBR, there's a lot of force involved and a lot of wasted energy. For example, in fine bubble diffusers, where your way of getting oxygen into the wastewater is to have air bubbles come up from the base of tanks. Some of the oxygen in the air comes out into the wastewater, maybe 20% or so.
And most of it goes into the sky, along with a whole bunch of other noxious emissions, which we don't want.
Well, exactly. And so, because only 20% of the oxygen comes out, because air is only 20% oxygen, 20% times 20% is 4%. That means you're wasting 96% of the energy inherently. And so what MABR does is take a fundamentally different approach. It really works like the human lung. So we're all breathing, no great forces involved. Air comes into our lung, the oxygen in the air wants to go into our bloodstream because the bloodstream's oxygen depleted. That's how MABR works. We've got a flat sheet, air-filled membrane where you just blow air into it. There's no forces involved on the membrane. It's simply a water barrier. And the oxygen in that air wants to pass into the wastewater because it's oxygen depleted. So it's effectively an extremely energy efficient process. It lowers the energy in the biological phase by around 90%.
990, not 1990, yes?
Exactly.
And the design you've got, talk to me about the spiral design that you've got.
Yeah, so there's a couple of other MABR approaches on the market, and they're using kind of a hollow fiber approach, so sort of like fat hairs, if you like, quite similar to MBRs actually in appearance. And we use a flat sheet architecture, that air-filled membrane with a spacer net wound into a spiral and dropped into the tank and filled up with wastewater. The reason that works very well is because as long as you're careful with regulating the growth of the biofilm on the wastewater side, which we figured out a number of years ago, they never clog. They don't need chemical cleaning. And they're also very inexpensive to manufacture. So we would say MABR is the right way to go to achieve the highest quality of what comes out of these wastewater treatment plants. And we would argue that our MABR, with approximately 95% market share in the sector, is because of the fact that these are very, scalable, meaning that you can't be doing chemical cleaning in little neighborhood systems. But when I say scalable, what I mean is all the way from a cluster of homes up to city-sized plants, in every size range in between.
Now you mentioned that you're the market leader. I want to come back to that, but before we do, let's stay with this biofilm, because on that biofilm you've got nitrifiers and denitrifiers. Normally they sort of build up and you have to scour them off. And you actually, it was almost a throwaway comment there. The design you've got is such that you don't have to take the plant down and air scour or anything like that. You've got a system that keeps it running continuously. Am I right?
That's correct. I mean, there's really kind of two things that are happening here. One is, of course, you have like death of bacteria, and so you want to sort of knock those off with air bubbles periodically, just so they settle to the bottom of the tank and can be removed. But the problem that others have found, for example, with the sort of hair-like structure of MABR, is that biofilm is very sticky, and then the hairs will start sticking to each other. And because we separate layers of the air membrane with spacer net, as long as the biofilm doesn't get too thick, the units won't clog. And regulating the growth of that biofilm is probably the biggest breakthrough that we made as a company.
It's funny because it's something that's got so much mechanical engineering and electrical engineering in it, but actually it's cracking that biological issue, that sticky bugs bit, which has given you the edge. Now, There are essentially three suppliers of MABRs around the world, and you are, certainly by number of installations, the world leader in it. And I think it's good to pause here and just go back 10 years. Tell me, when did MABRs begin, and what was your journey into the MABR world?
Yeah, great question. So I've been in the tech space for almost 40 years, and as an investor and as an
And
operator.
you only look 25.
Thank you for that comment. But back to serious. But I think so. Looking at a lot of breakthrough technologies, this is what's always attracted me. But you've got something that can really change a large market. That's always a good thing to spend your time on and to invest in. And I came across Fluence when it was a 3-person startup in Israel with something funny happening in the lab that they thought could turn into a breakthrough in wastewater treatment, and invested in the company, became the chairman at that time. And so the business scaled from that. It took 5 years to get working reliably in the field, really solving that biofilm problem, among others. And then really it's taken off very rapidly since then, with now 281 MABR systems sold, all the way from units that are treating a small cluster of homes up to a pair of plants we have in Cambodia that are treating 100,000 people's wastewater.
The differentiator here is that it's smaller footprint and lower energy cost than conventional systems. And I think it would be wrong not to emphasize that control, the fact that you have more control over the operation and the efficiency of the plant than maybe some of the other systems that are out there. Is there anything I'm missing? If anyone's watching this and they've got a plant that fits that, got a need that fits that description, they should be talking to you. Is there anything else that we should be capturing in that description?
The one additional thing I'd say is that we're seeing an increasing push for higher standards, and that sometimes means taking an existing plant and upgrading it. Now, one of the funny things or great things that happens with our MABR is you can drop those modules into the tank in an aeration basin, for example, in an existing plant. And what you'll end up doing is improving the effluent quality, improving the treatment capacity of that plant, lowering its operating costs while doing all of that, and of course, not growing its footprint. So that upgrade path is also very appealing to us.
That feels like a wonderful finishing point to punch home. Richard, thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking to you again.
My pleasure.
For our sector expert story this week, we have something a little different. We have a special update from Neom in Saudi Arabia. Now, Neom describes itself as an accelerator of human progress. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, but you can't help but be impressed at the scale and reach of their ambition. They have a super strong focus on sustainability and plan to build a truly green desalination facility. I was intrigued, so caught up with the exec director, Gavin van Tonder, to find out more. Gavin, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. It's terrific to be connected with you. Let's jump straight in. I know that Neom is doing some world-class, groundbreaking work on green desal. Can you tell us what it is you're doing and why you're doing it?
Sure. One of the key focuses for us is sustainability inside Neom. So we're not just looking at Neom as a LEED certification or platinum LEED certification. We're looking at it incorporating circular economy. So we are going beyond this, so not only ensuring net zero, but to produce environmental and economic and social benefits inside Neom. To that end, when we do desalination, we've got to focus on not only what we're producing water, but the effluent that comes from water. So we don't really see, yes, the brine. We don't really see the brine as an effluent. Actually, we see it as an asset that we get to utilize, as a resource that we get to utilize here. And so when we putting in place the desalination, firstly, we have to use renewable energy, and that's because all of Neom is going to have renewable energy. And then secondly, what we do with the brine. So we have very sensitive reefs inside the Neom region, across the whole Neom region. So we can't put that brine back into the sea because of the bleaching effect. It would damage essentially the reefs. So we're going to process the brine. In order to do that, though, we have to design a desalination plant very differently. So we have to try and get really high recovery in the beginning, so that the energy consumption for the processing of the brine is much less. So we have a real big focus on high recovery desalination and separating out.
Stage or in multiple stages?
So there will be multiple stages. So it's not just straight seawater reverse osmosis that we are doing here. There are some other stages that we're doing in front and some stages that we're doing at the back that all produce water, but also separate out the brine. That makes it easier for us to process it.
And we'll talk about the timelines of when those are going to happen in a minute, but just help me with the scale. What's the size of this installation?
The first installation is for 500,000 meters cubed per day desalination. That's for the desalination plant itself. Of course, you're going to get, we'll get about a 60% recovery from that desalination plant. So then you've still got another 40%, of which we probably will get 30% recovery from the brine processing plant. So, you know, even though
100,000 going into the brine plant, and then hopefully getting 50, 60,000 meters cubed of clean water from the brine processing plant. Have I got that right? Those are the sums. Am I in the right order?
So 500,000 meters cubed per day from the desalination plant, and then around 300,000 meters cubed per day from the brine processing plant.
Nice. Well, it's brilliant. Now, I know that this month is a big month for you. Neom's doing a number of announcements. I'm particularly grateful for you taking the time to speak to us today. You're doing a number of announcements across all of the sectors you're working in, which isn't just, of course, water. Just talk me through the timeline as what's happening over the next 6, 12, 24 months.
Well, I'll talk through the timeline of water, but, you know, essentially, as we are in water, we're always late to deliver water. So we are really aggressively trying to get our infrastructure developed in place. So we are building out the transmission pipelines, we're building out the reservoirs. We already have a desalination plant in place that is producing 125,000 meters cubed per day. Of course, all of that water is not being delivered today because we just don't have the demand. And our biggest issue in the next 18 months is how do we keep up with the demand and develop out a desalination facility in stages. And you know, and some of those is either we operated it at half rate, or we operated it at its full capacity, and we store the water maybe in aquifers, etc. So that the whole approach of doing that is busy. That's what we're basically busy with at the moment.
Well, I know the ethos in Neom is that this is an experiment not just for Neom, not just for Saudi Arabia, but it's actually an initiative that will bring value to the world. I know that's very ambitious, but that is the dream. So when do you think you'll be able to come back to us and tell us how things have gone?
Well, I think the first proof point is going to be on the awarding of the tender for the desalination as well as the brine processing, and my expectation is that will be done within a year from now. Certainly desalination within the next 3 months, but for brine processing probably within the next 6-7 months. So, you know, we have so much interest from so many companies around the world on the brine processing perspective, because it's all green products. So that's the benefit that we have by using renewable energy. We're producing green products, green salt, green magnesium, green gypsum, green lithium, green rubidium. So all of those things. So as I said, the feasibility plan has been done. We know what we're going to be doing. It's now all about implementation. So I would say probably in about 2 years' time, we'll be at a point where the facility is starting to produce water, and a lot of the brine facility is constructed, and we'd be able to talk about how we got where we're at today.
Excellent. Well, Gavin, thank you for taking the time today. I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Piers. Very nice to have a conversation with you.
Finally, we come to this rather beautiful, if slightly off the wall, story about Cymatics. Your first question, I am sure, is what is Cymatics? Well, Cymatics is based on acoustics. Simply put, it's the principle that when sound encounters a membrane, such as the surface of water, it imprints an invisible pattern of energy. In other words, the periodic vibrations of sound become periodic water ripples, creating beautiful geometric patterns that reveal the sound. The snowflake-like shapes shown here are the vibrations caused by the musical notes when their vibrations play through a bowl of water. Here are some more of them, this time for the notes C, D, G, and G sharp. Note how the patterns for each note are clearly very distinct and unique to each note. The cymoscope, which generated these images, is the first scientific instrument that can give a visual image of sound and vibration. It was developed by John Stuart Reid and is being used to reveal the once hidden realm of sound. So, what are the applications? Well, Cymatics has been used in astrophysics, ornithology, oceanography, and biology. For example, using it, we can see, and therefore possibly translate, animal communications which are too intricate for us to hear audibly. An article recently published in Nature Communications by scientists from the University of Bristol shows that every dolphin learns a unique signature whistle from its mother, which it keeps for life. It is, in dolphin circles at least, equivalent to its name. Dolphins recognize and remember each other's whistles, similar to how we recognize each other's names. And the picture here shows an example of what a young dolphin calling his mother's name might look like on a cymoscope. Now, the opportunities for this technology are fascinating. It can, for example, help us understand what's happening in the atmosphere of other planets. This is done by translating the cymactic patterns back into vibrations frequencies. So this image from NASA was generated using data from Saturn, and it produces this rather mesmerizing swirling pattern. Well, what does it mean in practice? It's basically a low frequency vibration. So what that tells us is that on Saturn, there's this gentle humming noise going on in the background. Now, I can't work out whether I'm most impressed that this novel approach to sound and water can give us a unique insights into the far-flung reaches of our solar system, or whether it's the fact that we could use it to understand oceanic mammals better. But either way, I trust you agree it's really rather cool. With that, however, we come to the end of today's broadcast. Thanks again to our sponsors and all our contributors. The next webinar will be on Thursday, October the 28th, and we'll have a Latin American focus. Megan's on leave this week, so I will circulate the invites, which should appear in your inbox shortly. Keep asking questions, keep sharing, and keep safe.